AITA for revealing my wife's affair to her parents after she called me controlling? I didn't go looking for a hotel lobby showdown. I'm Lucas, 39, and by the time this happened, I'd been Emily's husband for almost 9 years. I was the one who made sure the porch light was on when she came home late, saved every warranty email in a boring little folder, and believed grown adults should talk before they started accusing each other. That was the version of me Emily used against me. Every time I asked a normal question, she acted like I was interrogating her. Every time I tried to keep our problems private, she told people I was hiding how bad things really were. And for a while, I wondered if maybe I was the problem. Emily was not the kind of person people expected drama from. In public, she was gentle, careful with her words, and good at making people feel like she was the emotionally mature one in the room. She cried softly, apologized prettily, and used phrases that made other people lower their voices. If she said she felt overwhelmed, people believed her. If she said someone made her anxious, people looked at that person like they had already been convicted. For a long time, I believed that side of her too. Our marriage used to feel steady. Not perfect, but steady. We had quiet dinners at the kitchen counter when neither of us felt like setting the table. We had dumb arguments over whether the thermostat needed to be touched every 5 minutes. We had shows we watched together and inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. I did not marry someone I thought was capable of turning my patience into evidence against me. Adrian had been around the edges of Emily's life for years. He was an old friend, according to her. The kind of guy who commented, "Proud of you, Em," under her emotional posts and somehow always knew when she was having a rough week. He had shown up at a few birthdays and family gatherings, usually carrying chairs or joking with her dad like he was harmless. He called her Em in that casual way that made it sound like they had history, but I told myself everyone has history with someone. I never told Emily she couldn't be friends with him. I never told her to delete him. I never searched her phone. I was aware enough to know that a husband can become the villain fast if he tries to control every friendship his wife has. But Emily slowly started acting like I was doing that anyway. At first, it was her phone. It used to sit on the couch between us while we watched TV. Then it started staying face down. Then notifications stopped showing previews. Then she began walking into the laundry room for calls, even if the dryer was banging so loudly she could barely hear. One night, she came home from what she called a quick grocery run with no bags. I looked up from rinsing a coffee mug and said, "I thought you were going to the store." She froze for half a second. It was tiny, but it was there. "I changed my mind," she said. "Okay, you were gone almost 2 hours." Her face folded like I had slapped her. "Are you timing me now?" "I'm asking because you said grocery run and came home with nothing." "You don't want a wife," she said, already tearing up. "You want someone you can monitor." That sentence hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Not because it was true, but because it was so specific. It sounded like something she had practiced. I remember standing there with the mug still in my hand, water dripping off the rim, thinking, how did we get from groceries to me being a prison guard? I backed off that night. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself marriage meant not turning every weird moment into a courtroom. Then her family started acting different around me. Robert, her dad, became shorter on the phone. Linda, her mom, started checking on Emily with a tone that made me feel like I was standing too close to something fragile. Her younger sister, Rachel, sent messages in the family group chat like, "Emily needs support right now," even when nobody had said anything dramatic. I didn't understand it at first. Then I saw one message from Emily in the group chat while she was sitting next to me at breakfast. "I can't keep being treated like a suspect in my own home." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "What is that about?" I asked. She tilted her phone away. "It's not about you, Emily." She sighed like I had exhausted her. "It's about how I feel. You don't get to police my feelings too." That became her new move. If I asked a question, I was policing. If I mentioned a detail that didn't line up, I was monitoring. If I asked why Adrian's name kept appearing in conversations where he didn't belong, I was insecure. I suggested couples counseling after one argument where she cried so hard her mother called me 10 minutes later. "I'll go with you," I said. "I'll listen. I'll own my part. I don't want us doing this through family texts." Emily stared at the email I had drafted with a few counseling options and shook her head. "I can't be honest with you sitting there," she said. "Then what am I supposed to do?" "Give me space. Real space. Not space you supervise." A week later, she said she had scheduled solo counseling. I was relieved at first, which feels stupid now. She told me it was at 7 o'clock on a Thursday, and that she might be out late because she needed time to process afterward. I hope it helps, I told her. She looked at me like she was waiting for me to object. When I didn't, she said, "Thank you," in this soft, wounded voice that made me feel guilty for doubts I hadn't even spoken. The first crack came from our shared calendar. I was checking the week because we had a family dinner coming up, and her appointment popped up as counselor. For about 3 seconds, before she changed it, the location field showed a hotel. I asked, why would a counselor appointment autofill a hotel? She grabbed her phone from the counter so quickly her bracelet hit the granite. Because apps are stupid, she said. Listen to yourself. I asked about a calendar location. No, Lucas. You asked because you already decided I'm lying. I wanted to argue. Instead, I swallowed it. She had a talent for making me feel like defending myself was the same as proving her point. The second crack came from the doorbell camera. Emily told me she was exhausted and going to bed early. I went to rinse out the coffee pot like I always did, then answered an alert on my phone because the camera had detected motion at the front door. It was Emily leaving 15 minutes after telling me she could barely stand up. She had a small bag over her shoulder and got into a rideshare at the curb. When she came home after midnight, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of water I hadn't touched. Where did you go? I asked. She looked at me, then at my phone on the table. Did you check the camera? It alerted me because someone left through our front door. That's exactly what I mean, she said. You make me feel watched. Emily, you told me you were going to sleep. And you proved I can't do anything without you building a case. That phrase stayed with me. Building a case. I wasn't building one yet. I was trying very hard not to. Then the hotel charge hit. It came through as a fraud alert on our joint credit card the next evening. I was in the kitchen, making toast because neither of us had eaten dinner when my phone buzzed. The amount was not enormous, but it was enough to make my stomach drop. A hotel charge, on a night Emily had told me she was at counseling. I walked into the living room and held up the phone. Do you know what this is? She glanced at it and went pale before she recovered. Probably a mistake, she said. It's on our joint card. Then call them. Why are you coming at me? I'm asking if you know why there's a hotel charge from last night. Her first story was that it had to be fraud. Her second story, 20 minutes later, was that she had booked a room for a friend in crisis. Her third story, after I asked which friend, was that she needed space because home didn't feel safe. You are proving exactly why I needed it, she said, crying now. I can't breathe when every question feels like a trap. I almost lost it then. Not yelling, not breaking anything, but I felt that hot, stupid urge to say everything at once. To demand her phone, to drive to the hotel, to call Adrian and ask him what kind of man he thought he was. Instead, I called Carter. Carter has been my closest friend long enough to know when I'm not okay, even if I'm using my calm voice. He listened while I paced in the hallway and explained the calendar, the rideshare, the hotel charge, the family texts. When I finished, he said, "Do not show up angry." I'm not angry, I lied. Lucas. I leaned against the wall and shut my eyes. Carter said, if she's been calling you controlling, one bad reaction becomes her whole defense. You need receipts, not rage. Call a lawyer before you call him. The word lawyer made my chest feel hollow. I'm not trying to blow up my marriage, I said. I know, but she might already be blowing up your reputation. Protect yourself. That night, I didn't sleep much. Emily slept facing away from me, or pretended to. I lay there and watched the shape of the ceiling fan in the dark, thinking about how easily a calm man can be made to look cold, and how easily questions can be retold as threats if the person retelling them cries first. The next morning, Emily posted in the family group chat, I don't want to make things worse, but Lucas is questioning every dollar I spend now. I feel like I need permission to breathe. Rachel responded first. Lucas, this is not okay. Robert called me within 10 minutes. My daughter says she feels watched in her own marriage. He said, no hello, no warm-up. I was sitting at the kitchen counter with a bank statement open on my laptop. Robert, did she tell you about the hotel charge? There was a pause. She said you were twisting something innocent. Did she tell you what it was? Marriage requires trust, Lucas, and grace. So does honesty. He made a disappointed sound, like I had failed a test. You need to be careful with how you treat her. She's fragile right now. I almost said, she is not fragile, she is strategic. But I didn't have enough proof yet, and that sentence would have sounded cruel without it. So I said, I hear you, and ended the call before I said something Emily could screenshot. That was the moment I stopped trying to convince people with explanations and started documenting facts. I called the credit card company first, because my name was on the account. I confirmed the charge was real. I didn't ask the hotel for private information beyond what was tied to my own card, and I didn't pretend to be anyone else. Later, I checked the shared email inbox we both used for household receipts, reservations, warranties, and bills. Emily was usually careful, but not careful enough. The confirmation email was still there, buried under a promotional receipt. The reservation was for one night. The date matched her solo counseling. The last 4 digits matched our joint card. I stared at it for a long time. There is a strange kind of pain in seeing betrayal formatted like customer service. Confirmation number. Check-in time. Total amount. Thank you for choosing us. I printed it. Then I went through the joint credit card statement, line by line. One hotel charge could maybe be explained away if I ignored every instinct I had. The timeline could not. There were ride shares on nights she said counseling ran long. Dinner charges from places she told me she had never been. Small transfers labeled wellness, session fee, emergency, car repair, and gift. None of the amounts were wild by themselves. That was what made them easy to miss. But when I put them next to her calendar, the doorbell clip, and the family messages, they lined up like someone had been leaving breadcrumbs while insisting the floor was clean. The watch came from a charge 2 months earlier. Emily had told me it was an early birthday gift for Robert. I remembered because I had asked if her dad even wore watches, and she said, he will if it's nice. The amount was higher than what we usually spend on gifts, but I didn't fight her on it. Robert had always been decent to me, at least before Emily started feeding him her version of our marriage. Except Robert never received the watch. I only realized that later. The voicemail was the part that made my hands shake. Emily must have called me by accident with her phone in her purse. It recorded maybe 9 seconds. Most of it was muffled fabric and a car door sound. Then Adrian's voice came through clearly enough to make my blood go cold. Tell him it ran long, he said. He believes anything if you cry first. Emily laughed, but not happily. More like she was nervous and wanted him to stop. Then the voicemail ended. I played it once. Then again. Then I sent it to myself and saved it in 2 places, not because I wanted to listen to it, but because I knew I would start doubting my own ears by morning. Carter came over the next night and sat at my kitchen table while I spread everything out, the hotel receipt, the rideshare timestamps, the credit card charges, screenshots of Emily's family messages, my counseling email, the shared calendar screenshot I had taken after the hotel location flashed, and the voicemail transcript I typed out word for word. He looked through it without saying much. Finally, he leaned back and rubbed his jaw. You need legal advice, he said. I know. Not because you're trying to punish her. Because she's already framing you as the kind of guy who needs to be managed. I nodded. My throat felt too tight to answer. He softened a little. I'm not telling you to blow up your marriage. I'm telling you to stop disappearing inside it. The next day, I met with Morgan, a family law attorney. I didn't go in there demanding revenge. I went in with a folder and a sick feeling in my stomach. Morgan was direct, which I needed. Preserve records, Morgan said. Do not threaten anyone. Do not post online. Do not send emotional novels by text. Separate finances through proper channels. Evidence protects you. Anger complicates you. That sentence stayed with me. Evidence protects you. Anger complicates you. So I stopped reacting, at least outwardly. Inside, I was not calm. I was humiliated. I was furious. I was sad in a way that felt heavy and physical, like something had been set on my chest. I still loved the version of Emily I thought I married, which made the facts feel even uglier. But every time I wanted to confront her, I pictured her family group chat lighting up with, see, this is what I mean. So I kept building the record. The final twist came from the shared laptop. Emily had backed up her phone to it before, usually when she changed devices or panicked about losing pictures. There was a folder with a generic name, the kind of folder you ignore because it sounds like system junk. Inside were screenshots. At first, I thought they were proof she had saved to defend herself. Instead, they showed me how much worse it was. One screenshot was a message from Adrian to someone else. I don't know if Emily had grabbed it from his phone or if he had sent it to her by mistake, but there it was. She's easy help. Her husband is too stable to blow up his own life. Another line said, stable guys don't leave. They just sigh and pay bills. Emily had replied to Adrian, delete that. If Lucas ever sees it, he'll know you were using me. I sat there with the laptop open, the house completely quiet except for the refrigerator clicking on, and felt something inside me finally shift. Until then, a small, stupid part of me still wanted to believe Emily had been confused. Lonely. Manipulated. Maybe selfish, but not cruel. That message showed me she knew. She knew Adrian was using her. She knew I was being mocked. She knew the money was wrong. And instead of stopping, she protected him and turned me into the villain before I even had the facts. That was the part one couldn't forgive quietly. A few days later, Emily announced she had another solo counseling appointment. She said it at breakfast while stirring coffee she barely drank. I need you not to question me tonight, she said. I looked at her across the table. What time? Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because I want to know when not to bother you. She studied me, trying to decide if it was a trap. Then she said, 7. By noon, she had posted another message in the family group chat. I'm going to a session tonight. Please just keep me in your thoughts. I don't know how much longer I can live like this. Rachel wrote, we love you. Linda wrote, call me after, honey. Robert wrote nothing, but he sent me a separate text. Do not make tonight harder for her. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I called Robert and Linda and invited them to dinner. They came ready to be disappointed in me. I could see it in the way Robert barely touched his water and Linda clutched her purse in her lap. We sat in a quiet booth, and for the first few minutes, they spoke to me like I was a problem that needed to be handled gently. Linda said, Lucas, Emily feels cornered. Robert said, we are not here to attack you, but you need to understand how this looks. I put a paper folder on the table. I do understand how it looks, I said. That's why I asked you here. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize to Emily in front of everyone. I'll say I was suspicious and I hurt her. But if I'm right, I need you to remember something. Emily brought you into this first. Robert's jaw tightened. What is this? Dates. Receipts. The part she left out. Linda looked scared before she even opened it. I didn't show them everything at once. I started with the hotel charge tied to our joint card, then the reservation confirmation from the shared inbox, then the rideshare receipt with pickup and drop-off times, then the voicemail timestamp from the same night Emily claimed counseling ran long. Linda kept shaking her head. There has to be another explanation, she whispered. That's why we're going to ask her, I said. Robert looked at me sharply. Ask her where? I showed him Emily's calendar entry for that night. Her counselor appointment is at 7 o'clock. Same hotel location as last time before she deleted it. Linda's hand trembled around the printed receipt. You want us to go there? She asked. I want you to see what I see, I said. I am not going upstairs. I'm not knocking on doors. I'm not yelling. We can sit in the lobby. If I'm wrong, I'll take whatever you have to say to me. Robert stared at the receipts. His anger hadn't disappeared, but it had changed direction. Not toward Emily yet. Toward fear. You're sure? He asked. I swallowed. No. I wanted to be wrong until about 10 minutes ago. We drove separately. I did that on purpose. I didn't want them feeling trapped in my car if this went badly. I also didn't want anyone later saying I had dragged them somewhere against their will. The hotel lobby was too bright. That is what I remember most. Polished floor, little seating area, the soft ding of elevators, a front desk clerk looking at us with professional disinterest. Linda sat with the folder on her lap, gripping it so hard the edge bent. Robert stood near the chairs with his arms crossed, staring at the elevator like he could force a different truth to come out of it. I stood a few feet away from them, hands in my pockets, trying to keep my breathing even. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. Adrian stepped out first. He was smiling at his phone. Then he looked up and saw me. The smile vanished. His eyes flicked to Robert, then Linda, then back to me. He took half a step backward, like he could reverse into the elevator and undo the moment. He was wearing the watch. The one Emily bought with our joint card. The one she said was for her dad. I looked at his wrist, then at Robert. Nice watch, I said. My voice sounded strange to me. Too calm. Emily said that was for her dad. Robert's face changed in a way I will never forget. Not anger at first, but pain. Like somebody had reached into his chest and squeezed. Adrian opened his mouth, but nothing useful came out. "Lucas," he said, as if my name might help him. "That's Adrian. I told Linda and Robert. The counselor should be right behind him, right?" Linda made a sound like she had been punched in the stomach. A minute later, Emily stepped out of the elevator. She had her phone in one hand and was looking down at it. When she looked up and saw me, her face went white. When she saw her parents, it crumpled. "Mom? Dad?" Linda stood, still holding the receipt. Emily looked at me, and the first words out of her mouth were, "This isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because the sentence was so predictable it felt insulting. "Good," I said. "Then explain why our card paid for the room. Your rideshare came here, and your counselor's office has no appointment under your name." Emily's eyes filled with tears immediately. Robert stepped forward. "Tell me he's lying, Emily." She looked at him, then at Linda, then at Adrian, who suddenly seemed very interested in leaving. "I was going to tell you," Emily whispered. Robert's voice broke. "That is not what I asked." Adrian muttered, "I should go." I turned to him. "You probably should." I didn't touch him. I didn't threaten him. I didn't raise my voice. Honestly, that was the most satisfying part. He wanted a scene. Or maybe he expected me to give him one. Instead, he had to walk past Emily's father wearing a watch bought with my money while Linda cried in a hotel lobby. Emily tried to follow him with her eyes, but he didn't look back. That told me plenty. The ride home was silent. I drove alone. Emily rode with her parents after Linda insisted. When I got back, I sat in my car in the driveway for several minutes with the engine off. My hands were finally shaking. I had held it together in the lobby, but my body had apparently decided the danger was over and it could fall apart now. My phone started buzzing before I even got inside. Rachel was first in the family group chat. Even if Emily messed up, bringing Mom and Dad there was cruel. An aunt replied, "This should have been handled privately." Another relative wrote, "Lucas, I don't know what happened, but humiliating her is not okay." Emily sent one message, probably from her parents' car. "He ambushed me. He wanted to destroy me in front of my parents." I stood in the entryway with my keys still in my hand and felt that old pressure rise in me. The urge to over-explain, to make everyone understand, to beg people to see that I was not crazy. Then I remembered Morgan's advice. Evidence protects you. Anger complicates you. So I didn't argue. I opened the folder I had prepared on my laptop. The file was titled "The Timeline Emily Forgot to Mention." I had redacted account numbers, private financial details, and anything that was not necessary. Dates stayed. Amounts stayed. Names stayed where they mattered. I included the hotel receipt, the reservation email, rideshare timestamps, the doorbell camera still of her leaving after saying she was asleep, the counseling email I had suggested months earlier, Emily's messages calling me controlling, the voicemail transcript, the repeated charges labeled as wellness or emergency expenses, and the screenshot showing Adrian mocking me and Emily telling him to delete it. I sent it to the same family group chat Emily had used against me. My message was short. I won't defend myself against a story built on lies. Account numbers are redacted. Here are the dates, receipts, and her own messages. I didn't expose Emily to strangers. I corrected the lies she told our family. For about 30 seconds, the chat exploded with typing bubbles. Then they disappeared. Nobody sent anything. That silence felt louder than every accusation they had thrown at me. Rachel finally wrote, "Emily, is any of this fake?" Emily did not answer. Linda left the group chat on read for almost an hour. Then she sent one message. "I defended you because I thought you were being hurt. You let me hurt him for you. I need time." Robert called me later that night. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. He sounded older than he had that morning. "Lucas," he said, "I owe you an apology. I should have asked before I accused." I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the half-open closet where Emily's shoes were still lined up in pairs. "Thank you," I said. "I don't know what to do with this," he admitted. "Neither do I." He was quiet for a moment. "But I know you did not deserve what she said about you." That was the first time in months I felt like I could breathe without defending the breath. Emily came home the next afternoon with Linda. She looked wrecked. I don't say that with any pleasure. Her eyes were swollen, her voice was thin, and she moved around the kitchen like she didn't know whether she still belonged there. Linda didn't come far inside. She stood by the door and said, "Emily needs to talk to you." I told her I am not doing it for her. Then she left. Emily sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where I had once wondered if I was losing my mind. I messed up, she said. I waited. She wiped her eyes. Adrian was there for me when you made home feel unsafe. I pushed my chair back slightly. No. She blinked. No. You don't get to start with the lie again. Her face tightened. I am trying to explain. Then explain the hotel. Explain the ride shares. Explain the money. Explain telling your family I was controlling while you were using our joint card. Explain the watch. Explain why Adrian thought I would just sigh and pay bills. She started crying harder. He manipulated me, she said. He made me feel like he understood me. Maybe he used you, I said. But you chose to use me. Those are both true. She looked down at her hands. I didn't think you'd actually do that, she whispered. Bring your parents? Leave. Stop covering for me. Any of it. There it was. Not an apology. An admission that she had counted on my silence like it was part of the household budget. My phone buzzed on the table. Emily glanced at it automatically, then froze. It was her phone, not mine, lighting up beside her purse. She had left it face up for once. The preview was from Adrian. So is the transfer still coming, or did your husband freeze everything? Emily stared at the screen. Whatever fantasy she had left about him caring for her died right there in our kitchen. He hadn't asked if she was okay. He hadn't asked what happened with her parents. He hadn't asked if her marriage was over. He asked about the money. I didn't feel triumphant. I expected to. I thought there would be some clean satisfaction in seeing her realize what he was. Instead, it was just sad. Ugly and sad. But it was also clarifying. By then, I had already started the process Morgan recommended. I legally limited the joint account to required shared bills. I removed unnecessary shared card access through the bank. I changed passwords on accounts that were mine alone, not to punish her, but because shared money had already been misused and I was done financing a lie. Emily noticed when her card declined for a non-essential charge 2 days later. She came into the living room holding her phone. You froze me out. No, I said. Required bills are covered. Anything else needs transparency now. You're punishing me. I'm protecting money you already misused. She looked like she wanted to call someone and have them tell her I was wrong. Then she seemed to remember that the people she usually called had read the folder. That was one of the consequences she hadn't planned for. Emily was used to crying into a phone and having the room tilt toward her. Now, when she cried, people asked what part of the evidence was false. Rachel didn't apologize right away. She went quiet for 2 days. Then she sent me a private message. I read everything. I shouldn't have jumped in. I was angry because she sounded scared. I'm sorry. It was not a speech. It was not dramatic. It was enough. Carter called after I told him what happened. You okay? He asked. I looked around the living room. Emily had taken down one of our framed photos from a side table and left it face down, like the picture had offended her. Not really, I said. Good. Honest answer. I keep thinking I should feel better. You probably will later. Right now you just stopped a moving train with your face. That was Carter. Blunt, not poetic, but usually right. The next argument with Emily was about the apology. Morgan had advised that if Emily had made false claims to family, she needed to correct them in writing. Not because it would fix the marriage. Because reputation matters, and written lies should not be left standing just because the person who told them is embarrassed. Emily's first draft said, I'm sorry this got so messy and people were hurt. I read it once and slid the phone back across the table. No. She stared at me. What now? Messy is spilling coffee. You lied and made your family call me controlling while I was paying for your affair. Her mouth opened, then closed. I can't write that. Then don't. But I won't discuss counseling, repayment, or anything else until the lie is corrected. You want to humiliate me. I want the same people you lied to know the truth. You made it public when you made me the villain. She cried again. I didn't comfort her. That sounds cold, and maybe part of me had gone cold by then. But I had learned that Emily's tears could be real and still not be accountability. Both things could exist at once. The second apology came that evening. She sent it to the family group chat. I told people Lucas was controlling and paranoid. That was not true. I was hiding an affair and used shared money while lying about counseling appointments. Lucas asked normal questions because my explanations did not make sense. I let my family believe he was the problem because I was ashamed and wanted to protect myself. I am sorry for lying to all of you. and I am sorry for what I did to him. Nobody rushed to comfort her. Linda replied, "Thank you for finally telling the truth. I still need time." Robert did not reply in the chat, but he sent me another message. I meant what I said. "I'm sorry." Rachel sent a thumbs up, then deleted it, then wrote, "I need to sit with this." That was real life, not a movie. People didn't clap. Nobody gave a speech about justice. The group chat just became a place where Emily could no longer edit the story without being questioned. Emily asked me not to file immediately. We were standing in the hallway near the front door. She had been sleeping in the guest room for a week. I had started turning the porch light off at night, not as a statement, but because I was no longer waiting for her to come home. "Please," she said, "don't make any permanent decisions while everything is raw." I looked at her and remembered all the times she had made me feel guilty for noticing the truth. "I'm already speaking with Morgan," I said. "Future conversations about separation, repayment, property, or money can go through proper channels." So that's it. That's the boundary. What about counseling? You wanted counseling. I wanted counseling when we had a marriage with problems. I don't know yet if we have a marriage. She flinched. I didn't say it to hurt her. I said it because it was true. If counseling happens, I continued, it is not a delay tactic. It starts after a full accounting of every dollar used for Adrian, and after you accept that no private contact with him continues. But counseling is not a promise that I stay. Emily hugged herself. He made me feel wanted. That line would have destroyed me months earlier. It would have made me wonder what I lacked, what I failed to give, what Adrian had that I didn't. Now it just sounded like another attempt to move the spotlight away from her choices. "Then he can want you without my money," I said. She looked down. Adrian disappeared faster than I expected. Once the transfers stopped and Emily's parents knew, the supportive messages dried up. He sent a few angry texts, then a few charming ones, then one long message about how he never asked for this drama. Emily showed it to me like proof that he was hurting too. I read the first 2 lines and handed the phone back. "He is upset the arrangement stopped," I said. "Not that he helped ruin your marriage." She did not argue. That was new. The house changed after that. Not in one dramatic sweep, but in little absences. Her phone no longer buzzed all night. The family group chat stayed muted. The watch charge sat highlighted in the folder on the counter until I finally put it with the attorney papers. Emily stopped using words like unsafe and trapped around me because they no longer worked without evidence. I wish I could say I felt powerful. Mostly, I felt tired. But tired was better than crazy. For months, Emily had made me question whether asking obvious questions made me controlling. She had built a story where my patience was weakness, my attention was surveillance, and my silence was consent. She counted on me being too steady to make noise. She counted on me wanting to protect the marriage more than I wanted to protect myself. She was right for longer than I like admitting. I gave her quiet chances because I didn't want to look jealous. I stayed calm because I didn't want to become the man she described. I kept things private because I thought privacy was respect. But privacy stops being respect when only one person is using it to hide the truth. The hotel didn't destroy our marriage. The hotel just gave the truth an elevator and an audience Emily had chosen herself. I didn't catch her to win her back. I caught her so she could never call me crazy again. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.